And it doesn't happen in jumps. It happens gradually, which is actually good. Makes it easier to bear, right? Okay, so therefore, dependence on parts means you can't find anything solid because it's made up of things other than itself. And dependence on spatial parts or characteristics, like we have certain characteristics, we have certain qualities, and again, we don't really find a solid self. Plus, being made of parts in time, like moments in time, so which part is me? What is the I? It's just constantly changing, nothing solidly there. But of course, the last type of dependence on thought, or dependence on labeling. What is the word for labeling? Designate. Tiuk. Tiuk. Gyuk. Okay, gyuk. No? Tiuk. Tiuk. Ah, tiuk. Okay, you need tiuk. You need thought, right? What is labeling? Thinking? It's this. Labeling doesn't just mean applying the word, the term or the word. It's just thinking. You can't even do that without words. It's this. It's that. Perceiving some coarse kind of characteristics and then going, it's this. It's that. And we're labeling all the time. It makes our life easier. But the problem is we then think, oh, beyond the label, that which we labeled it is actually intrinsic in the object, and I just recognized it as being, I don't know, a table, because that's what it is, it's intrinsic in it. But actually it's the other way around. Because I call it a table, it is a table. And I'm not doing this randomly. It's very important to understand that there is a certain basis of imputation. You do, even the labeling, even calling things this, that, and the other, or thinking of them as this, that, and the other, depends on at least two factors. A mind that does the labeling, a thinking mind, and a basis of imputation. So we agree, as a society and even individually, we kind of make sense of the things around us by recognizing certain principal characteristics, and if they are fulfilled, okay, so then I call this object a table. Whether I use the name or have some other symbolism that allows me to think about it, even when the table is not present, in any way, in any sense. So the point is that I recognize, this has the characteristic, this is the characteristic, oh, table, right? And then it seems, oh, it's a table in and of itself, and I just recognized it as such. Remember the exercise yesterday with the disciplinarian? I told you about a disciplinarian being appointed in a monastery, and it takes you a while to get used to this person being the disciplinarian, but then it seems he's got disciplinarian written on his forehead. And then there's another person who takes over, and you still need time to get used to, oh, he's not the disciplinarian. Because you still have that sense, it's intrinsic in that person to be the disciplinarian. Totally forgetting that we called him, that he was appointed as such. We call him such. There's nothing intrinsic in that person. So that accounts for, oh yeah, can we keep the questions? Yeah. So I won't take questions now, but I definitely will. So today there'll be more time for questions than yesterday. All right. Now, that being the case, the second section actually I want to take questions. Now the first section we'll have a break and then questions. Okay. All right. So therefore we label this, that, and the other. Okay, to make sense. That's good. We don't blame labeling. But therefore things exist because they depend on labeling. And that is very difficult. The last type of dependent arising really gets at how phenomena do not exist. But it's very easy to fall into the extreme of nihilism, to think, oh, if I just call it that, I mean, it's not just with not just with the I, for instance. The I is merely labeled on the basis of mind and body. That would be okay if mind and body now really existed intrinsically. But they are also just labeled. Also the body is just labeled on parts, on different parts. I call it a body. And then I take the parts. I take my hand. It's called a hand on the basis of this part and the fingers. Palm of the hand and the fingers. So then if I look at the finger, if I look at my thumb, that's also just labeled on the basis of each part. So you never really find something inherent in here, something that can say, well, that's truly there. You can divide it up further and further, and again, I call it an atom, I call it a nucleus, I call it a neuron, but you can divide it further, you can go endlessly and you don't find anything. And then people go, whoa, there's nothing there. Which is why in Buddhism you find different philosophical systems. The highest system tells you there's nothing there. That's difficult. Whoa, there's nothing there. Wow. So you have the other systems that say, yes, there's something there. Okay, the phenomena are labeled, they tell you that, but there's still something there. There's a particles particle. There's a smallest particle that you can no longer divide up. That's really there. And everything else is just labeled. Or the mind, that's truly there. The mind is really there. So don't worry. Oh, everything is kind of just labeled, it doesn't really truly exist out there, but the mind exists truly. Right? And so these are these philosophical systems that are like stepping stones. What is the word for stepping stone? Right? Like something that takes you a little further. So once you get used to this idea, you move on to the next philosophical school, and the highest, eventually, the most profound, where they tell you nothing can be found. Nothing. When you really engage in an ultimate analysis, trying to find the object, there's nothing to be found. Does it mean it is not existent? No. It's labeled. It's labeled. But the labeling itself is just labeled. So even the labeling mind is just labeled. So it is really difficult. It's not easily understood. But anyway, it's totally worth it. Because it's the solution to all our trouble. Now, for the first meditation, we won't focus on interdependence. We already did interdependence yesterday. If we have time, we can do it again. But I want you to do the next meditation, which is actually meditating on the I itself. So, what I'll ask you to do is this. I'll ask you to, first of all, generate a sense of the I. I've done that this morning to a certain degree. So asking you, well, get a sense of I. Okay? Get a strength, like it's sometimes stronger than other times. That makes sense, doesn't it? Sometimes you're with another person and you're just talking and the sense of I and the other person disappears. Have you had that experience? You're just with someone and like me and them, it's not as strongly there. But at other times there's a very strong divide. Me against the rest of the world, right? Or I and them. It's just a matter of situation. Okay, it's just a matter of a different type of mind that arises. So, now, you don't want to remember times when there was no strong sense of an I. Those times are not helpful. You want to remember a moment when there was a very strong sense, I. Okay? So yesterday I said if I were to suddenly accuse you of something, I mean it'd be awful and I wouldn't do that. But that'd be a great moment to think, I, because there's a very strong sense of I in that moment. But not just in terrible moments, they can also be positive moments. Like in front of everyone, Bibi praises you. You get the Medal of Israel. No, you don't. Well, never mind, even if it's not Bibi, but someone, right? So, some great person, like in front of everyone. The Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama is telling you, whoa, this is special Liora, special Yoval, Yael, Yoav. Hard time with those names. I always get used. So, anyway. You're so special. Look, in that moment there's also, oh, there's also a sense of, oh, I'm special. The special sense of an I. So that is the I. That is the I. That is the strongest sense of an I we can experience. And that we should now analyze. If that was really there, the way it appears, we should be able to find it. Right? We should be able to find it. If it was really there, the more we look for it, the clearer it would become. It's like, if you look for a pen in this room, right, and if it's really there, I should see it there. Eventually I'll find it. But of course it's a different kind of looking for the eye versus looking for a pen, right? I mean, you go closer and closer, even with this pen, eventually I don't find it. At some point, you can't find it. But here you do specifically with the eye, because we have this sense, I all the time. So, now, there's two possibilities in terms of the eye. Well, there's different possibilities, but first of all, either the eye is where our mind and body is, or it's outside of our mind and body. Okay? So, it certainly doesn't feel like my eye is over there, and my mind and body are here. That would be ludicrous. So, is the eye here? Yes. Now, sometimes, like I mentioned yesterday, there's a sense the eye is located somewhere. Where do you think your eye is located? If you had to pinpoint it, do you have a sense? Okay, some here, some here. Very interesting. That's usually where most people... Some say in the belly. Some say in the belly, some say here, and some say here. And it changes possibly, depending on how you feel. Okay. All right. So, but even if it feels like it's here, if it was truly always here, then there would be a sense my head is above, my belly is below. Right? Does that feel that way? No, it doesn't feel like my belly, my head is above, there's my head, there's my belly. It doesn't feel that way either. Or if the eye were really here, it would be like my brain is kind of up here, my mouth is down here. It doesn't feel that way. It feels much more like I'm everywhere. Also, if the eye was really here, why should I get upset if someone bumps into my arm? That's not my eye is here, right? So why should I get upset about a different part of my body? What do I care about my toes if my eye's up here, right? If I lose a piece of my toe, big deal. No, it doesn't feel like that. So at times it feels like it's here or here, but actually it's like everywhere. All right, so let's establish that, and I'll guide you through it in meditation. So, all right, it's here. Now, either my eye is, that's the other possibility, whatever exists, either it's one or many, right? Either it's one or many. Those are two, and this is one. Okay, or either singular or plural. Do you have that in Hebrew, singular, plural, right? Yeah, in Tibetan they don't really have that, but in most Western languages they have singular, plural. Okay, the eye, the way it feels, it appears to me right now, it seems one thing, one eye, right? Eye. Multiple personalities, I'm not sure, but really, like, honestly, I guess, just ordinary people, I guess we have a sense there's one eye. Now, if there's this one eye, it can, either it is the same as mind and body, or it's different. Would you agree? So there's a sense it exists independently, it's this independent entity, so either it's one with mind and body, or different. If it's one with mind and body, well, why do I say my mind? I'm trying to control my mind. I'm trying to lose weight. What is that I? It seems to be separate from, right, mind and body. So if the I were one with mind and body, we could not say my mind, my body. That would be incorrect. Plus, we couldn't have one I, we would have many eyes because we have many body parts. Right? We have many different types of awareness, we have different body parts. So at least I would have two eyes. The eye that's the body and the eye that is the mind. Or mind and body would be one, because the eye is one. That doesn't make sense. There's more than I mean, there are different ones. So again, it doesn't work that they're one. But if they're different, then I could remove my mind and body and I would still have the eye. So if it's not one, if it's not different, can't find the eye. Wow, can't find the eye. So this thing that tells me, I need this, I don't want this, I am more important. The thing that governs my whole day, I'm a slave of that I cannot be found. Wow, vacation. Finally, vacation. Because the I that keeps telling me, your reputation, your career, you're this, if it cannot be found, whoa, maybe there's some freedom. Right? Okay, so that's the idea here, really, that this I can actually not be found the way it appears to us. That doesn't mean I don't exist, I mean, just go like that. Yep, yeah, I'm there. not in the way in which it appears, because I've just looked for it in that separate, exaggerated I. That is the content of my exaggerated notion of I'm more important. Now that's not there. So I still keep on existing. I can be very loving. I can have love. I don't need to exaggerate myself to wish for others to be happy. I don't have to exaggerate myself in order, or anyone else, to have compassion, to wish others to be free from suffering, because there's still different awarenesses people have which suffer. So, therefore, I want them to be free from suffering. So positive awarenesses work perfectly. The negative ones no longer work. No longer work. And I give you one last example that I really, really like. This is from one of my teachers, who's this meditator. I mentioned him already yesterday, Geshe. Geshe, he gave this example of someone who had been chatting online with a girl. So this young Indian boy, it was actually a young Indian boy, he fell in love with this girl online. And he was really smitten by her, like she was very pretty, like he got some photographs, and he fell in love with her, and they started making plans, and he was thinking, maybe I'll marry her, and I want to get married to her. Anyway, it went on for quite a while, and at some point he received an email by the brother saying, you've been promising my sister things, I'm going to go to the police. Because in India that's a little tricky, because of the abuse of women, which is one extreme, they've gone into some other extremes, as in like being really strict on men promising women certain things, you can get punished. So for a man it can be sometimes a little dangerous in India now. If someone says you've promised a woman marriage, etc. So anyway, this brother was giving him a really hard time, saying you need to pay money, otherwise I go to the police. And he did, he paid up. But the brother wasn't still, and he kept doing it, and he kept pressing him for money, until this boy, he was so desperate, he didn't know what to do. He was worried about his family, about his other sisters, because if there's a scandal, the whole family can get affected, the sisters get affected by that too, so it's all very complicated. In the end, he's killed himself. He killed himself. And then the police went to investigate. There was never a girl. There was only a boy who needed money. And he pretended he was that girl until the guy fell in love with her. So all I'm trying to say, you could feel it, you could feel the story. You could even imagine maybe falling in love with this girl. But if there is no girl, what do you fall in love with? So the point is, there were other cases like that, where someone pretended to be a beautiful girl, a guy fell in love, but then when you realize this person doesn't exist, what happens to your attachment? What happens to your craving? It can't happen, because you realize it's not there. It's like when you fall in love in your dream and you wake up in the morning, right, and you're as attached as it gets in your dream, and then you wake up and you realize nobody's there. So what happens to your attachment? If it doesn't go right away, at least it's reduced and it will very quickly go away. You may also be attached to the feeling, yes, but that feeling is associated with that person, and if that person is not there, what are you going to be attached to? So that mechanism is similar to not finding the I, and not finding another person. What we're actually attached to is a figment of our imagination. What we're attached to doesn't exist that way. What exists, we're not attached to. We're not angry with. We're not jealous of. Okay? All right. So, having understood this process, how it makes sense, now I'll guide you through the meditation, trying to look for the I. And again, as before, we'll spend a few moments on calming the mind. Just watching the breath. Start the meditation by bringing to mind a time or a situation when you experienced a very strong sense of the I. Maybe when you were praised in front of a lot of people. Or criticized in front of a lot of people. Maybe embarrassed. But don't get caught up in the story at that time. Don't get emotionally involved. Just objectively observe the sense of I in that situation. Once you get that feeling of an I, once it becomes clear, try to hold it. And now think, does it seem to be located where your mind and body are? Or do you feel as if it existed outside of your mind and body? Is there a sense it can be located somewhere? Does it feel like at times it seems to be in the belly or in the chest or in the head? actually, although it seems to be existing in a certain place, if we look for the I in that place, we can't find it. And although at times it may be located, for instance, in the chest, it doesn't feel as if our throat is above the eye and the belly is below the eye. Also, if the eye were in the heart, then it wouldn't make sense that when someone touches our knee, to say, he touched me. Or when we injure our foot, to say, I got injured. Since the eye cannot be found in the foot.